1, 2, 3, 4.
Springtime, 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 springtime.
It's my screen time too.
Springtime, springtime.
Hello, and welcome to It's My Screen Time Too, the podcast where we review the programming the other critics ignore. Stuff made for kids. Find out what to watch for family movie night, what to avoid altogether, and what you'll want to watch alone voluntarily. I'm Katie.
And I'm Deborah.
And I have two kids, ages 9 and 5.
And I have three kids who are 14, 11, and 11. Today, we are reviewing the brand new Disney Plus movie, Descendants, The Rise of Red. We're reviewing it because we always like to review a Disney made-for-TV musical in the summer. Past favorites have included Teen Beach Movie, the Zombies trilogy, and this one doesn't rise to Katie's favorites status, but I liked it a lot, Sneakerella. So, Descendants, The Rise of Red debuted on Disney Plus on July 12th, 2024, and it will air on the Disney Channel in August. It's 1 hour, 31 minutes long, which is the perfect length because the Disney Channel Originals creation team, they know what they're doing. It's rated TVG, and this is our third review of the fourth installment of a movie franchise this year. What is happening? There have been 3 Descendants movies previously. The first one came out in 2015, Descendants 2 in 2017, and Descendants 3 in 2019. And this one is notable because it's the first in the franchise not to star the core duo of Mal and Ben and their friends. They do cover really briefly that Mal and Ben have left the island and are off on their own sailing excursion. So the plot summary, according to IMDb, is that Red, daughter of the Queen of Hearts, and Chloe, daughter of Cinderella, team up to save Aurodon by traveling back in time using the White Rabbit's pocket watch to stop an event that would cause grave consequences.
Big question. Did you like it?
I did like it.
Me too. You could really see the money on screen, right? Like thinking back to the first Descendants movie that looked very much like a TV movie, this one looked expensive.
I loved the costumes, the hair, the makeup. I mean, you definitely go into the Descendants movies for the visuals. I saw a really bad headline of a review before I watched it. So I was a little, I didn't read the actual review. I was a little skeptical going in, but I liked it more than I expected to. I didn't feel like it quite lived up to the first Descendants movie, however.
This is what I have to ask because I've seen the first Descendants movie, but I've not seen the subsequent 2 movies. So I just wanted to know like how you judge it on that trajectory.
Well, it's been a long time since I've watched any of the first 3, but we did have the soundtrack to the first one that was like on heavy rotation, and those songs are very catchy. They're just better songs than the songs from Descendants, The Rise of Red, although I did like some of the music and it was enjoyable, but not enough to like listen to in your car on repeat.
I agree. I feel like there were only 1 or 2 catchy singable tracks. And when I watch a Disney original movie, which I guess is what they're calling it now, not Disney Channel original movies, at least according to the opening credits. I'm glad they finally settled on a name. There were really only 1 or 2 tracks that like I found getting stuck in my head that I could sing again. And there were a lot that were just like, I don't know, like auto-tuned hip hop dance showcases, I guess.
Yeah, I did. There were some fun raps.
But those aren't the kind of songs that are going to stick in my head, you know, because you have to listen to it multiple times to even get the words down. It doesn't really have a chorus.
Right.
But I'm an old person, so it could just be, I don't know how to appreciate things the youths like. Well, what do you think? In addition to the somewhat not catchy music, why do you think this isn't for grown-ups? What was hard for you to connect with because it's maybe not made for us?
I think like maybe the melodrama, because like through my grown-up eyes, I can see that the acting is super cheesy and the dialogue is really, I mean, we're not talking Aaron Sorkin
Right.
level dialogue here. We're talking like after school movie level dialogue. And like I think as an adult you've watched enough film and TV to have like, I don't know, the taste to recognize that this is not like Oscar winning stuff.
Right.
But I feel like if you're, I don't know, in the 8 to 12 age range, it is totally believable that people would like that these characters would be having this type of conversation. I don't know. I feel like if I was watching it as like that young person, I would get completely immersed in the story. Whereas I'm not watching it for the dialogue, honestly. Like I already said what I watched the Descendants movies for. So in that way, I think it is totally created for younger people, but there's still a lot in here for a grown-up to enjoy while watching it with their kids.
Right. I think we've almost been a little bit spoiled this summer because we've been reviewing so many theatrical experience movies that are made with like a general audience in mind, a multi-generational audience in mind, that it's kind of a mindset shift that you have to do to remember that these movies are truly not made to be multi-quadrant successes. They are just made for the tweens. And in that sense, they're super successful. And it'll be interesting to see if this movie continues the Descendants fever or if the fact that they had to make a switch away from the core cast will hurt it in any way. You also obviously can't examine the logic of Aurodon too closely, which you know is always my problem when watching things that are made for kids. Like, all the kingdoms have merged into Aurodon, where they have one prep school, but why are there still so many royals?
Right.
How is there not just like constant war for power? Also, why is a teenager heading up their prep school? A teenager who has not graduated from any institution of higher learning. And how can Chloe and Red just enroll in Merlin Academy without any documentation? I understand that they're saying that Merlin is absent-minded, so he believes that he could have just lost their papers. Fine. The thing that stuck with me was they just had like a beautiful dorm room going spare that they could be like, here you go, girls. This will be where you will live.
I know. It definitely requires some like suspension of disbelief. Like, I mean, there is magic. So maybe somebody waved a magic wand and created that empty dorm room.
Thank you for that reminder.
But it was also a different time period where, you know, maybe it wasn't internet times and maybe they would have had to like mail away for their transcripts from other schools, giving them like a couple week grace period.
That's true.
To start without identifying like who they actually are.
And that, okay, see, you thought it all through and you made it make sense, just like a
It
good
works
grown-up
for me.
should. Okay, I like that. Because despite all that logical inconsistency, I still quite enjoyed this movie. But you know that Disney Channel originals are my jam. They've always been my jam. I love them so much. So why don't you tell me why this is for grown-ups?
Okay, one word, Brandy.
Yes.
I know we're going to talk about the cast, but like that, I mean, that for women of a certain generation, her presence in this movie is like enough reason to watch it, right?
Yes, definitely.
And she has not aged, which kind of made me mad. She doesn't just look ageless in that way that like some actors do because they've had like fillers and they just, instead of looking old, they just look sort of different. She looks exactly the same, like she was frozen in time.
She does.
Which good for her.
They did give her some gray in her braids when she was
But
like
that's
Cinderella.
fake.
And it was like, this seems put on. You are trying to make this woman look older.
Yeah. And I don't know. I just think it's so fun to see what they do with like the makeup, like the Queen of Hearts makeup, like her glitter eyeshadow and sequins on her face. Like that's super fun to see, I think. It's sort of like watching, I don't know, like the Olympic sports where they like also dress up to do it, like gymnasts and ice dancers and stuff like that. That's kind of what I enjoy about it.
I also really liked the general plot thrust of kids learning that their parents are people too. So I
Oh,
appreciated
yeah.
that.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I think it'll necessarily stick with any kids who are watching it, but that was a pleasant through line for me.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right, Brandy is the far more important element of this. So let's just move on to talk about the cast and character standouts. Brandy, obviously, listeners, if you don't know, she played Cinderella in an absolutely iconic adaptation of the Rodgers and Hammerstein musical in the 90s with Whitney Houston as the fairy godmother. So she reprises the role of Cinderella in this movie along with the actor that originally played her Prince Charming, which I wrote down his name and then I
Paolo Montalban.
Yes. And so, for any children that grew up in the 90s, it was wonderful to see them playing those roles again. They actually had this moment where they danced together and they sang So This Is Love from the musical. It was so beautiful.
And they're harmonizing. Yes, I would have loved another song from that duo.
Yes, I would have liked a Brandy song rather than a Rita Ora song, but that's just my personal preference. Did you miss anyone from the previous installments?
No, not really. Like I said before, I haven't watched those in a really long time, and so I don't have any standouts. The music is really more what I missed.
Yeah.
How about you?
Well, I am a fan of Dove Cameron, who was the star of the original 3 movies. I really liked her in that Apple TV show Schmigadoon. So
Oh, yeah.
I'm very glad that she's moved on to be successful in other things, but I did miss her presence in the movie. And then also in the first movie, you had Kathy Najimy playing the evil queen and Kristen Chenoweth playing Maleficent. So I did kind of miss them. I mean, Brandy
That's
was
true.
a nice
That's true.
counter. I also really liked, okay, so the conceit of this movie is they go back in time, right? And they meet teen versions of their own parents. So Red is trying to go back in time and keep the Queen of Hearts from becoming evil. So she starts out as this really nice girl named Bridget. She's such a people pleaser.
Yeah.
And I related to that so much, Deborah. So I really liked the character of Bridget. It's rare that I see myself reflected so completely on screen. Pink hair and facility with flamingo feather cupcakes included.
Did we ever find out what the prank was?
Well, I mean, spoilers, listeners, but the sister of Ursula the Sea Witch was going to bake cupcakes that would make her ugly and then give them to her at the school dance and then make her ugly in front of all the students, which I guess was the prank that drove her to evil. When they revealed that this was the origin of her evilness, I turned to Kevin, who I cannot believe he hung through this whole movie with me. It was very good of him. I turned to him and I just said, "Pig's blood," because it's such a
like
classic.
Harry.
Yeah, like her
Yeah,
first
that's
school
what
dance.
I was thinking too. Yeah, absolutely.
And like in comparison, eating a cupcake that presumably only temporarily turns you ugly didn't seem so bad. So you mentioned that you weren't super impressed with the screenplay. Do you have any other specific thoughts on the writing?
I think it's fun the way they incorporate all these fairy tales, and then they've like sort of expanded the fairy tale universe to include like, I guess I wouldn't have thought of Wonderland from Alice in Wonderland as being part of the fairy tale universe, but sure.
Right.
It was a fun idea, and like you can, I mean, if you look at the original Alice in Wonderland movie, like they do so much fun stuff with the Queen of Hearts. Like, of course they own that intellectual property. They might as well use it in a kind of fun and unexpected way.
Right. The crass interpretation is it's not about incorporating a lot of different fairy tales. It's about incorporating a lot of different pieces of Disney-owned IP.
And I love a time travel plot. I love a plot where the protagonist meets the parents in their younger self. Like, it also made me sort of think about like 13 going on 30 and that body switch type of thing, which isn't exactly what they do, but yeah, I love any plot where it kind of breaks down the age barrier between the child and parent, and then they can empathize with one another.
Right. I loved the interactions between Ella and Chloe. I think I liked that more than the stated plot, which was the whole thing about the Queen of Hearts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do you ever think about how you learned difficult vocabulary words, like how you picked them up in your life as a kid? Sorry,
No.
I'm putting you on the spot. Sometimes I think
haven't.
about it like as I'm raising kids and I'm noticing their vocabulary expand, I'm like, oh, he picked up this word. I wonder where he got that. And as I was watching Descendants, The Rise of Red, there's this scene, again, spoilers, in which the Queen of Hearts attempts to stage a coup to take over the kingdom of Aurodon. And I was like, is this how tweens are going to learn what coup means?
Yeah, I was watching it with Libby, and Libby was like, "What's a coup?"
Now she knows.
Yeah.
We talked about the music a little bit. Do you want to get more specific about the music and choreography?
Well, I enjoyed the choreography a lot. I enjoyed the scenes where it was like all the male backup dancers acting as courtyard security, sort of.
Right.
It's fun. It's fun to see male dancers, not just female dancers in skimpy outfits. And I think Disney Channel originals or Disney originals do that very well.
Agreed. I think some of my complaints were similar to complaints I had about Sneakerella in that I don't like it when they cut the dance sequences too choppily, because when there's group dancing going on, I want to be able to see it. And I would say it was about 50-50 with the songs that like had choreography that I felt I could really follow versus the ones that it was like, come on, just
Right.
let us see the dancing.
Yeah.
The songs that worked for me, I thought, were Get Your Hands Dirty, which was like a gardening song with Ella and Chloe. That was really cute. And then the Life is Sweeter anthem with the cupcakes where everyone was dancing around the courtyard, because they had all these like really cute 90s moments, because presumably they were going back in time to the 1990s when their parents were teens. So it was like, what if 1990s but also fairy tales? I thought that was really cute. Any thoughts on the structure?
The structure was fine. I didn't have any complaints, especially as somebody who's talked at length about why I want 90-minute movies for every movie. Like, there were other backstories and side plots to explore, but it's just, I think they're smart. They're saving it for the next in the franchise.
Right. The one thing that I would say I thought was an interesting choice, although I can understand why they made it, to save money, given how generally expensive I thought this movie looked. The time travel plot was building to this big school dance, right? Castle Coming, where the supposed prank was going to take place and ruin everything. But the dance was somehow not made the focus of the third act of the movie. Like, that's not where the action culminated. You never saw the dance at all.
Oh, that's true.
And I just thought that wasn't the obvious choice. It didn't end up bothering me that much, and maybe it's just because I grew up with Back to the Future, so that like penultimate scene at the big school dance when you've gone back in time to save your family
Right.
feels like a natural fit. But I guess if you don't need it, you don't need it. Any other thoughts on the look of the movie?
I mean, I've talked about how much I loved the makeup, wigs, that kind of thing, but the set too was really fun. Like when you see the zoom out scenes of Oregon, like there's like, I don't know, little forests, and like some of the trees are purple, and that's, I don't know, it's just like super colorful. Kind of like the inspiration is from Wizard of Oz when they land in the land of Oz, and it's the first time that they see things in Technicolor. That's kind of the feel that I had from the set, which I liked.
I also really like the specific visual iconography they pull in from these classic Disney cartoons. It was fun to see the explicitly cartoony Wonderland from the old Alice in Wonderland movie brought into quote unquote real life.
Right.
It made me wonder if they get any bump on these classic animated movies. Like if more kids will go back to watch Alice in Wonderland or will go back to watch Sword in the Stone, being reminded of them through watching a Descendants movie. I'm just curious.
It seems like that would definitely happen, but we'll probably never get those official numbers from Disney.
Yeah, why would they give us that information?
What did you think about Descendants Rise of Red for your own kids or kids in general? Do you think this is okay or good for kids?
I do think it's okay, but like I said, I'm predisposed to be in the bag for Disney original movies. If your complaint about previous franchises, like say Zombies, was it's a movie for young kids, but it's all about a love story and maybe you're not ready for that yet, that's very much not the case in this one. Yeah, I didn't find anything objectionable. How about you?
I thought it was fun, fluffy, entertaining. I think it's just fine for kids. Yeah. Is there anything that makes it inappropriate or otherwise bad for kids?
Not that I could find. Again, if you feel really strongly that you don't want to you don't want your kids exposed to like bad behavior on the part of other kids, that's certainly very much Red's character trait at the beginning of the movie, but I feel like if you feel that strongly about it, you're probably just not consuming TV and movies with your kids, full stop. So, no, I really didn't see anything objectionable. How about you?
No, I mean, this is rated G, and does have a very G feel to it. I think the Descendants movies are and they're fine. And I feel like some of the earlier ones are a little bit more scary. And there's not much to be scared at in this one.
That's right. It's very much rebellion in a safe way. Should we move on to our evergreen questions?
Sure.
All right. What movie or TV show for grown-ups were you able to compare this to?
You already said it. Back to the Future. You can't not compare this to Back to the Future, I think.
The other one with the 90s teenage vibes, it did make me think a bit about Clueless.
Oh, yes. Yes. Yes.
Were you able to cast the gritty HBO reboot?
Yes, but I just went with like lookalikes.
Okay.
Because I thought that the actor that played Red looked so much like a young Anne Hathaway.
Oh, okay.
I would cast Anne Hathaway in that character for the gritty HBO reboot. And Uma, I think the actor who plays her looks like a young doppelganger of Tessa Thompson. And then for the Queen of Hearts, I would cast Angelina Jolie, or remember Jessica Shore from Gossip Girl? They have similar features. But then Angelina Jolie already played Maleficent, so
That's
then that
right.
gets kind of tricky.
Yeah.
So she would have to stay in the Maleficent character, I guess.
I suppose.
And then John Cho as Prince Charming.
Of course, because he already
Because he kind of
is.
looks like that actor who played Prince Charming.
Am I hallucinating, or did Anne Hathaway play one of the queens in like the Tim Burton Alice in Wonderland universe? Or am I making that up?
It's possible.
I
She
might have
did
to
play a
Google that.
princess.
That's true. She's already a Disney princess. Why haven't they gotten Genovia in on the Descendants universe? I guess it's because Genovia wants to remain a sovereign nation and not be subsumed within the borders of Aurodon. All right, Descendants 4 is going to be the war for control of Genovia. So I've been watching Poker Face, and so I've got Natasha, Lyonne, and Adrien Brody on the mind.
Okay.
And I think they would both be really well suited to playing fairy tale villains, because Brody has kind of this like skeletal look. And Natasha Lyonne has that great raspy, very distinctive voice. So I would love her take on either a fairy godmother or an evil stepmother, who we saw a little bit in this movie. And did the earlier Descendants movies have Hades? There was a young Hades in this one.
Yeah, I think that's right.
So I would take Adrien Brody as a Hades.
Oh, he would do that very well.
Do you think it was better when we were kids?
No, we didn't have it. I would have loved the Descendants when I was a kid.
Yeah, same. I mean, we had some high quality Disney Channel originals when we were kids, and I wouldn't trade them for anything. But the quality has definitely gone up, as has the budget.
Yeah.
Would you ever watch this alone voluntarily?
No, but I had a good time watching it with Libby. How about you? Did you and
Same.
Kevin watch it with the whole family, or was it just the two of you?
We did kind of watch it with the whole family. We put it on outside while the boys were in and out of the pool. So they
Oh
kind
my
of consumed
gosh.
it.
Florida and your outside televisions. That's so fun.
The kids definitely consumed it in like a drive-by fashion, but they were casually interested. Kenny says he wants to watch the previous movies, so I don't think there'll be any need for me to watch any of these by myself.
How would you rate it on 1 to 5 stars?
I am always too generous with Disney Channel originals, but I'd give it 4 stars.
Yeah, same. 4. I think we would both answer the see it or skip it question with a
See
see
it!
it. Thanks for listening to our review of Descendants, The Rise of Red. Next week, we'll be back with a conversation about screen time in the news. If you enjoyed our show today, please recommend the show to at least one friend that you think would enjoy it too. We love growing our community of parents for sanity in screen time. Never want to miss our up-to-the-minute thoughts about screen time? You can head over to our website at myscreentime2.com to subscribe to updates. Tune in next time for more real talk about the movies and TV we watch with our kids because we have to and sometimes because we like to. Bye!
Screen time, screen time.